We started off as Zaha Hadid architects 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. And it was built from that point. We started off with 5 people. We were maybe went up to 25 till more recently we are 400 people. Well, I mean, obviously I'm the instigator, original instigator of many of the ideas. But with the focus, of course, and this always is on innovation. And it has always been about innovation technology, and about materials, but mostly about ideas. And we focused a lot in the last 30 years to develop an idea. I think that all the odds were against me, in the sense that it was very difficult for women to make it in architecture. It was very difficult for that kind of work to make it in architecture. So it's more than just being a woman or a foreigner. It was also the work itself was quite, people could not imagine it would ever be happening. So I think that to achieve maybe a fragment of what we would try to achieve was quite a feat, it was quite a something. So I'm very proud that we managed to do that. What drives me? I know from my experience that if I had not pushed, I would not discover many things I discovered. And I still think there's more to be discovered. Well, of course, I never thought of myself as a role model. At the beginning, I always thought of myself, I did not want to be, let's say, pigeonholed as a woman architect. I mean, I think later, I didn't change my mind. I thought it was very critical that I acknowledge the fact that, you can influence other people. So I think it's important to inspire people in maybe a very modest way. To be nominated as the Veuve Clicquot Businesswoman Award, it's a very nice thing. I mean, something which I don't expect to be nominated for. So I think it's a very humbling, pleasant experience.
In the last 30 years, Zaha Hadid has gone from paper architect to global megastar. Her extraordinary architecture doesn't just stand. It melts, it slides, it whooshes, it juts, it moves. Her buildings make us feel like we're in another place, another world even. A Zaha-shaped world. Zaha Hadid has won all the top architecture awards, the Pritzker Prize for Architecture and the Sterling Prize, twice.
I was woman, I did strange stuff. I think they're all together intertwined, but there is definitely has been, and it still remains, it's much better now. There's a definite stigma about the woman thing.
Born in Iraq in 1950, Zaha Hadid is now a dame of the British Empire. This year, she's even been named Businesswoman of the Year by Veuve Clicquot.
The winner is a great architect who happens to be a woman, Zaha Hadid.
Thank you very much. My old accountant, he used to always tell the tax people that I was a ditzy princess from the Arab world, not knowing that I came from a family who did not believe in the monarchy. But anyway, architecture is no longer a man's world. This idea that women can't think three-dimensionally is ridiculous. And I cannot say I've done it alone. I have great people. I have a great partner, Patrick Schumacher. I have great associates with me in the office who are a mixture of men and women. And they've all really contributed to this work.
It's an almost improbable success story. It took years for her career to take off. The practice started life in just one room with 4 people and now employs almost 400. It's a global brand with buildings all over the world. In 1983, when she was 33, Zaha won her first prestigious international competition. It was to design a clubhouse to be located on the mountainside above Hong Kong. Her design was radical, but potentially it was buildable. Despite the brilliance and ambition of the project, Zaha's client lost the site and it was never built.
Did you expect it to happen, or what did you feel when it didn't, and how did you find
Well,
out?
I thought it was sad because it was like in our grasp, and it could happen.
But it didn't. And yet the peak did put Zaha on the map. Her work was attracting the attention of young architects from all over Europe.
Going up here?
Patrick Schumacher was one of them.
You've got to have an ego, haven't you? And how is Zaha's ego?
Huge.
It was 10 years after winning the peak that Zaha, now working happily with Patrick, completed her first major built project, the Vitra fire station in Germany.
Did it feel like to be in an office where you know you've got this powerful presence and creativity here, and yet you don't win anything?
There was always the optimism and hope that the next one will be it.
The thing that kept me going is that I really enjoyed the work. It was very tough. Actually, the times I enjoyed the most were the toughest moments. We were left to develop these ideas through competitions. I always thought at the end, we'll win. I had no money, and these people just didn't let go. Patrick used to teach in Germany, but he wouldn't charge me for working in London because he knew I had no money. I couldn't pay him. I think in the 90s, honestly, none of us slept. For 10 years. We were maybe 10 people, but we did work for equivalent to 100 people. It was that increased our repertoire. So when we did get work eventually, it wasn't so difficult because we had tested every option. It's only because we worked on every competition, we killed ourselves until we won Cincinnati. In 1 year, we won Rome, Wolfsburg, the ski jump, one after the other.
The Science Centre in Wolfsburg marked a step change in her practice. It was a conceptual leap away from the jagged towards the elephantine, the snaking, the snail-like. Made easier by what became known as parametricism, of which Zaha and Patrick were pioneers.
Parametric design is fundamentally where you allow the computer, you feed it various ideas, and then you allow it to invent form that you probably couldn't do in your mind. It's of such complexity that your brain couldn't think of it, and certainly your hand couldn't sketch it.
People always misunderstand this whole thing about computing. They think, oh, well, they don't know what they're doing and they're just going to press a button and the computer does it. It's of course totally idiotic.
So the shapes are made possible by parametricism and computers, but there's more to it.
Zaha's story is absolutely fabulous. She is the greatest woman architect, not in the world now, and probably ever lived. And she's right here, in London. You can touch her. Oh, well, almost.
She does demand attention, and she gets it. She goes to the States and she has dinner with Obama. She is a superstar. Zaha is, if you know her and if you understand her, very inspiring person. But you have to have a patience. You have to give her room. If you try to constrain her, then she will explode.
Zaha was a genius. She was doing work that nobody else conceived of, never mind figured out how to build.
Zaha was a pioneer, and she was a star in the firmament of ideas and of poetry. And once a star goes out, there is really no one to replace it. She was unique.
There are very few people in the world who are known by one name. And, you know, anywhere in the world you can talk about Zaha.
Who knows what extraordinary creative things might have come out of that imagination if it had another 1 or 2 decades to keep producing things.
What she managed to do, which is so amazing, is to actually take this entire universe that seemed impossible and unbuildable and completely sort of changing our understanding of what's fantasy and what's reality.
When you're an artist or an architect, you need immense courage, you know, and Zaha had this immense courage and radiating immense courage, and I think that was infectious to many, many young people.
How do you sum Zaha up? A great architect and a great person, a very special person.
The very essence of Zaha was a real romantic, very sensitive, but a warrior too. And that's how I like to remember her.